Hello, friends. Today, you are not going to want to miss this episode. I am going to share with you a human trait that is so rare. I promise you, just statistically, I promise you, you don't have it. I'm going to share with you something that you can cultivate, that you can acquire, a trait that is so rare that the 1% of the 1% have it. That's it. Okay, so 99.9% of the population will not have this trait. So I don't care if you're a billionaire. I don't care how many companies you own. I don't care if you're royalty. I don't care who you think you are. You don't have this trait and you need it. But first, and how I'm going to share this trait with you, is I'm going to tell you a story. And the lesson actually comes from a queen. So, the story is from back in the Queen Victoria day. So the way the story goes is Queen Victoria was invited to a dinner for an African diplomat. And the dinner was in the honor of the African diplomat. And there were about 500 British royal guests and high society guests also invited to this dinner for this man. Now, what happened at dinner, most of us would want the earth to swallow us whole with what happened to this poor man. So I guess he wasn't coached on British dining, and somebody had forgotten to tell him about the etiquette around a finger bowl. So everything went fine through dinner until the finger bowl was served. And for those of you who don't know what a finger bowl is, it is usually served after dinner and before dessert. And the purpose of a finger bowl is kind of like what it sounds for. It's a little bowl and it has tepid water in it. Sometimes it has a piece of lemon in it, and you put your fingers in it to rinse your fingers at the table. Well, no one had told the diplomat about this, and I guess it wasn't in his culture at the time, and he picked up the finger bowl in front of the Queen and in front of 500 British royal guests and drank the contents of his finger bowl. Whoa. I've done some crazy things, some embarrassing things, as I'm sure you have. Like, can you feel that? Can you put yourself in that man's position, in that man's shoes? Can you imagine? Because he's definitely sitting at some kind of table too, where he's at the front and everybody can see him, and everybody is watching him because he is, the guest of honor. Can you just take a second and take in that man's horror and embarrassment? Because on top of doing so, he knew he'd done something wrong, because this hush fell over the room. Everybody stopped talking immediately. And what made it even worse is some people started whispering and talking. Bad manners, by the way, very bad manners. Don't do that. The Queen, seeing what had happened to her guest. Now, pay attention. In cancel culture today, in this culture that we have where nobody wants to make any mistakes and everybody wants to be perfect all the time, I want you to understand the magnitude of what the Queen is about to do for her guest. Without saying a word, she silently picked up her finger bowl and drank the contents of her finger bowl. And knowing the power that she had too, because whatever the Queen does when you have dinner with the Queen, you have to do it too. 500 British royalty drank the contents of their finger bowl. And with this grace, this presence of mind, this willingness to partake in the mistake, in the social blunder that her guest had made, she completely erased his mistake. She erased all the embarrassment. She guarded and protected her guest when she took part in it because she knew the power that she had, and she knew that everybody else would have to follow suit with it as well. That's how little she thought of herself, and how much presence of mind and how much service she had in thinking about others. Can you think of a time when you were so gracious? When you protected somebody? Because I'm going to tell you how most people behave. And I don't care if you're a billionaire. I don't care if you own multitudes of businesses. In today's cancel culture and this society that we live in where everybody's perfect and everything's perfect all the time, in today's culture, most people would never do this. And this is why it's such a separator. It's such a huge separator, because I lost my train of thought. I don't know if I can edit this out, but it's such a separator because we're all so afraid of getting, we're also afraid of our platforms, right? Getting blown off the planet if we say something or do something that's not perfect. And so think about a time, if you ever had one, or think about an opportunity, if one arises, where you could actually do the same thing, show the same presence of mind. Because I don't care if you own a $1 billion company, I don't care how many employees you have, I don't care who you lead. Are you willing, would you be willing to serve your employees, your family, or people in your community in such a humbling and human way as what Queen Victoria did for this diplomat? And that's your call to action this week. That is what I want you to do. Okay, within reason, guys. Use your brains. I have to say this on here because if I don't, it's all recorded and someone does something idiotic, then all of a sudden it's my fault. So within reason, don't do anything stupid. But can you look for or see an opportunity, and it may come up months from now, in where you can show somebody this kind of presence of mind? Because I think, as I was saying before I lost my track, and I'm not going to edit this because I think we need less perfect on the internet. Most people, when they see somebody who has made a mistake or has done something and who is now socially humiliated, there are two kinds of people, and this is where the 99.9% of us fall in, by the way. This is why it's such a separator, what Queen Victoria did. We, as people, will either, one, partake in their humiliation and actually exasperate the humiliation and make it worse for them. We all know an asshole like that. Don't be that asshole. Some of us have been that asshole in the past. Here's your proverbial smack. Don't do that. Don't do that. Or, here's probably where even more of us fall in. We act neutral. We act neutral. We will not partake in the humiliation, but we will not do anything to save the person from their embarrassment or from their humiliation. So Queen Victoria was very, very rare in that she saved this person by partaking in their mistake. That's the show. I hope you like it. I hope you've learned a lesson here today. If you like the show, hit the subscribe button. Share the show, guys. I'm doing this show because I'm very passionate about etiquette, about manners. I see it lacking in society. That's why I started doing it. That's why I started teaching it. That's why I started the YouTube, my Instagram. Take a screenshot, tag me, share the show, share the link. I will repost it if it brings you value. Only if it brings you value. If it doesn't, don't share it. I think that sounds fair. Anyway, I love you guys. I hope you learned something today. I know I learned a lot when I found out this lesson from Queen Victoria. An awful, awful lot. So, love you guys. Take care, and I'll see you next week.